Buddhism didn't just make me calmer. It completely changed the way I see my life. And in the next few minutes, I want to share with you the most powerful lessons I learned and that you can apply immediately in your life. I was born in Venezuela and I worked as a fashion model for 25 years. 10 years ago, I ordained as a Zen priest. If you would have told my younger self that this would be my life today, I wouldn't have believed it because there wasn't a straight line from my life to Buddhism. There is no cultural connection. There was no obvious path that would have led me here. So in many ways, I had no business in becoming a Zen monk. And I share this with you to normalize something, that Buddhism doesn't belong to a certain kind of people or culture or even a certain kind of way that you look spiritual. It belongs to anyone who's willing to look at their life honestly. I began practicing meditation perhaps 30 years ago, and it was through the way of nature, spending time alone in nature, in the silence and in the openness. So it wasn't about creating or adopting a new identity, but it was about meeting my life differently. And that's what I want to share with you here. The most powerful lessons that Buddhism taught me, not perhaps from the texts or the studies, the formal studies, but through my own lived experience perhaps in a language that will make sense and relate to your own life immediately. There's an idea of what a Zen monk should look like. And it lives in a monastery, wears robes, and lives secluded or away from ordinary life. But that is not my life. In fact, I live in suburbia, United States, and I have a house. I walk my dog. I make breakfast. I go out for dinners with my husband, and I work during the day. I work the garden. I raise children, and I have schedules and responsibilities like anybody else. I don't live in a monastery. I am perhaps what you call a modern monk. And that's important because I also think there's a misconception that to follow a dedicated practice, then you need to be somewhat removed from modern life. And I don't think that is accurate. And the lessons are universal. So they're not tied to geography or ethnicity or the type of person. They're connected to being human. And the practice starts here, right now in your life. At the heart of Buddhism, there are what we call the Four Noble Truths. And what they point to is first, that we suffer. I would say basically that reality doesn't match our expectations. Second, then it says, well, we suffer because we have those expectations, and reality, it doesn't end up being what we expected. And so we are always in that push and pull, wanting more, wanting less, wanting different, wanting to control. So basically it just names that dynamic of wanting things or not wanting things. The third noble truth then says there is a way to get out of this cycle. And then the fourth noble truth then says, come on, let's go get out of the cycle. When I look back at my life and I see my history in traveling with modeling, or even now in growing, I guess, my business in coaching, the relationships, the ambition, the insecurities, I see how much suffering comes, not so much from the circumstances, but how tightly I hold on to them. Zen didn't remove the difficulties in my life. It changed how I relate to it. And so in reflecting what I wanted to share today, I think it all boils down. In formal Zen, they would call it the 3 Pillars of Zen, which are great faith, great doubt, and great determination. But I think, again, and I promised that I would have some simple language, I would say that when I look at my life, what it taught me, it was ritual, dedication, the way I attend to things, it taught me curiosity, and it taught me constancy. So we could say dedication, curiosity, and constancy. When I talk about dedication, I think it relates to ritual. The way I would define ritual is when we engage something wholeheartedly, when we have an intention, when we engage in that task, in what we're going to do, that it has then a beginning, middle, and end, all in service of that intention. So if you think about it, it invites naturally a kind of natural care for what we're doing. So for example, when I light the altar, there's a particular way of how to enter the altar, how to light the candle, the incense, how to place the incense in the holder, and then, dedicate that gesture. So then if we take that into our lives, is how we enter situations. Are we clear with our intentions? Are we present to how we interact? Who do we show up as? It's the same way when I'm cooking. I have an idea of what I'm going to cook, and I am present, cutting the celery, boiling the rice. So there is a quality of attention when you have this, perhaps this aligned intention with attention that creates dedication. I see every day and every small thing that I do as a sequence of small rituals. It is the way I brush my teeth. So I have one of those electric toothbrushes. And even that, how you follow each tooth, outside, then you go inside, and then you go in. That in itself is the practice. You're present. You have an intention, you're present with what you're doing, and you're fully dedicated to that. Then I make breakfast. Then I walk the dog. Then I listen to a client. Then I listen to my daughter. And so if you think about it, at the heart of it, when we talk about even presence, it's a quality of dedication that you have in a moment. And then it's the practice, so you do it moment to moment. And that, if we break down that dedication, it has to do with integrating or combining attention with intention. So that is something that you can do right now and see how your relationships, your life, your work blossom because you clarified what you're there to do, why that is important for you. How are you expressing that intention with another person, with your work? I mean, it could even be an Excel sheet for all intended purposes, but it's how you attend to that, is that it will reflect back to you in your life that care. I am not lying to you when I tell you your life will become more shiny just because of this practice. So then when I talk about curiosity, you could say they all the three go hand in hand, right? But so you're there, you have a clear intention, you have your attention in that moment. And maybe it even talks about then maybe the heart goes right in what you're doing. So you have that dedication in place. Then there's a quality of the attention and that dedication when you bring curiosity. And what fuels curiosity behind it? It is not knowing. The key to fresh, open, surprising, wondrous curiosity is when you're able to suspend what you think you know, why you think you're right, how things should work. Curiosity allows us to literally open the hand and then start exploring and sensing, what is it? And maybe, sure, you know what a morning is, you know what an Excel sheet is, you know what your spouse looks like, your special person, even your cat. But if you pause, be curious, what is it now? Not the idea you have of it, what is it now? And so this practice, I was talking about making, your life becoming shiny. This level of curiosity will bring wonder to your life because you'll start discovering colors, shape, aspects of people, situations, your drive to work. Did you notice how much the tree in the corner has grown? Like yesterday I was walking, and here in the Western United States, we're right turning into spring and the buds are growing. And I noticed again that attention and intention in my listening and the open curiosity. I noticed that there's a quality of the birds singing that is different from how they've been singing, if they've been singing at all in the last few months. And so suddenly it's this moment of, oh, what is that song? How is that song? And the green, and how are the buds growing? So these are not, like I said, deep spiritual practice. This is everyday practice on how you notice your attention and how you open up, you suspend your knowing into what is it now? And that can happen right now. I mean, look around in the room where you're at. What are things that maybe that you haven't fully acknowledged? Look at your hand. When was the last time you noticed the wrinkles of your hand, the shape of your nail? Even when I do that, I'm always surprised how my hand more and more becomes my mother's hands. So even that, then there's a softening. So there's a whole experience there. So then there's constancy. What I don't mean is doing the same thing again and again in a rut. That is dead, right? What is beautiful is when you can show up and in that freshness of your attention and your curiosity, it's fresh every time. But what is consistent is that you show up. But see, what we repeat is the intention. So when we talk about dedication, in some ways is like a resolve or a commitment that is unconditional. You have a good day, you have a bad day, you're upset, you are hungry. But if you practice this attention, intention, and curiosity, no matter the circumstances, then you get that consistency. So of course, when I'm working with a client, my intention of listening and creating that space of curiosity and invitation and welcoming to whatever they want to share, then it's regardless of the circumstance. My practice of presence, attention, and curiosity are there, whether I'm having a good day or a bad day, whether the client is talkative or not, or it is just there. And again, it doesn't mean that I'm always perfect. So the practice is not perfect. Practice is remembering to practice, is coming back to what am I here to do? What's happening? How is it happening now? And then coming back. So when we talk about consistency and determination, it's remembering to remember. So again, we go back to the Four Noble Truths. So we're constantly attaching and wanting to control. And then we remember, it's like, right, I can't control how reality unfolds. And it's natural for me to be, frustrated that it didn't happen the way I wanted. Okay, what's happening now? So that is the magic. So if this resonated with you, go ahead and like the video so this message reaches people like you. And if you want to embody these principles more fully in yourself, in your life, in your relationships, at work, find a link in the description for a private conversation, and we can discuss how you can, again, create more of these circumstances in your life where these principles are alive and brightening and blossoming your life more consistently. So this isn't about converting you into Buddhism, as you may have seen. It's more about sharing these very universal principles, the dedication, curiosity, consistency, that can be directly applied into your life right now. You don't need to live in a monastery. You don't need an identity shift. You just need the willingness, because your life as it is the path, and the practice starts now.